What do these women have in common? Sylvia Plath, Emily Dickinson, PJ Harvey, Lana Del Rey, Hope Sandoval, Patti Smith. They all use their interior, their deepest emotions, their confession of desire, anguish, pain as their medium, but also their creative process. And I want to talk about that today, what that means, because there's this idea when we study the history of things, particularly in the arts, called reception of ideas, in literature and in art and in music, where we pull the thread and we see where this all began. And I love doing this. And I've pulled the thread since I've learned about this ancient poet, Sappho, where we've just got a little bit of her work. They're called fragments because literally they've just found fragments of her work in the most insane places, like scratched out on ancient pottery fragments or in a tomb in Egypt. She's luckily been quoted a few times by other authors in the past through history, so we have those fragments as well. But she was prolific and she was a lyrical poet, so that meant that she played the lyre and she sang and performed her work, and it was always devastatingly beautiful and about love and heartbreak and desire, moments that I guess she found so poignant in her life that she could not do anything but express herself in this way. And I guess what it shows us is that it's always been there as an innate human desire and a need. Like, it's essential that we learn to express ourselves fully, but it is not very much enjoyed by society when we do that, especially women. We get shushed. There's a long history of being shushed. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the creative process. If you're an artist or a writer of any kind, a performer, you've probably dabbled in expressing your emotions, and you've probably seen what happens, or it's happened to you, where you're dubbed too emotional, too fragile, too sexual, not intellectual enough. And that means you're doing it right, I think. There's this famous part of a poem. I have the quote here, but I'll put in the notes where it comes from. And it says this: what would happen if one woman told the truth of her life? The world would split open. So just let that land. What would happen if you expressed your truth? And how do you even find your truth? It is so deeply buried, and where your truth lives is where your endless fountain of creativity lives as well. And we can't find that place through one scoop. We have to dig away with a tiny spoon or a tiny shovel through most of our life to really get to that grain that sort of grinds and makes us feel things harder. And it's, I think, essentially what we're striving to find when we are in creative flow. And I want to encourage you to find that tiny shovel and start digging and start exposing your interior to yourself, and let it inform your work. You're a painter, you're a poet, you're a writer, you're an explorer, you're a student, you're a nail artist, or anything. You just find the beauty in the moment, in the doing, in the making. This message is for you. When we refer to artists like Sylvia Plath with this aerial, this book was put together after she tragically passed away. But it's been edited. It was censored. It was edited by her husband, I think Ted Hughes, who didn't like any of the super raw bits and just sort of deleted them, and her mother. And what researchers have found in Sylvia's archives is that a lot of her work had red marking through it, words circled, notes, you can't say that, you can't do this. And I guess this happened while she was alive. And how painful is that? You know, if you can't even express yourself fully in your work and you're there to be shot down. I know there's a history with Lana Del Rey as well, where she ended up writing an open letter a few years ago and putting on social media about this. I'm neutral on that. I'm not sure what really went down and what happened. We see Patti Smith, where she, like Sylvia Plath is a catalyst, but also Patti Smith, because she is a writer and a poet. And she took the work from the page to the stage, I like to say, where she started singing it and bringing that music in again, where we hadn't seen it for, I guess, a very long time in that format, hundreds of years, not in our, even near lifetime. But she was called too intense. She was just too intense, too much truth, maybe too much feeling. And then there was, look at PJ Harvey, where she's made people sort of stand back and go, whoa, that girl's dark, that girl's really intense. But if you start pulling the thread, we could call this sapphic, and these women that do this creative work, they've read Sylvia Plath, they've read the classics, they know how this goes. And we can all go back to Sappho, and some of the things that you will read that Sappho wrote could have been written today, and they will go on into the future as long as we are women with emotions, or people that have been in love, or people that have suffered in any way. That wound is what makes us human, or as what Rumi beautifully said once, or wrote, was, your wounds are where the light shines in. And I'd like to add that that's where the light can shine outwards as well and turn into the gold, which is your creative output, your words and your colors and your shapes and your core expression. So all in all, to say that there is a long line of amazing artists that have decided to dig to their deepest depths and put it out on the table and let the world burn along with them. Because as an audience to you, the artist, the writer, the poet, the singer, we need you. We need to help. No, how do I say this? We need you and your work to help us excavate each other's emotions. Because, reading a beautiful poem or listening to a gut-wrenching song, that it's helping me find my depth. So it's a service to humanity, and you need to keep creating, and don't be afraid, put it out there. Just open up, let it out, share it, enjoy it, and let it all go down in history. It might be love, it might be grief, falling in love, falling out of love, rejection, sorrow, elation, even joy. It could be for a lover, a child, a parent, for yourself, for your career, for adventures and journeys and aspirations, death of a dream. Split the world open with your truth. Go now and begin, because we need it.